Greetings and hello, I'm Maxx Crowley, and we're here for a little discussion today. What we're here to talk about is Resident Evil 6. This isn't exactly going to be a review, it's more going to be like a rant and me just going off on a little tangent here, probably. But if you're the too long didn't read type, Resident Evil 6 is an absolute piece of shit. It's not just a bad Resident Evil game, it's one of the worst games I've ever played. So, there you go on that. And I may or may not have footage running in the back of this right now if I can stomach to play through the game again to capture any of it. I don't know, I might just have some pictures, I haven't decided yet. I'm going to break this down into the campaigns. So we're going to talk about Leon's campaign at first. First, let's give a little backstory. I have been playing Resident Evil games since the very first one. I remember when I saw the ad for Resident Evil it was, I believe, a GamePro magazine that my cousin had, and I think I still have it around here somewhere. But I didn't actually get to play it when it came out. I was able to buy Resident Evil 2 when it came out from a game store in my local mall, which is no longer there. And I'm really confused because I was way under 18 when I bought it. Looking back now, I kind of wonder how kosher that was. And then I beat that, loved it. Resident Evil 2 and Final Fantasy 8 really were the games that solidified me as a gamer, because I had always played games, played the shit out of them, and liked games, but there were never any games that really grabbed a hold of me and were like, this is what you want, this is what you do. So I later bought Resident Evil 1 from a local Walmart, and Resident Evil 3 I got to buy, and then just so on and so forth. But after Resident Evil 4, which was the first Resident Evil that I really didn't like, it wasn't so much the gameplay, but it was just everything else, the content, the story, and all that. But we'll get into that when I play Resident Evil 4, which I will. I will do that. I just got to get to it. But I was still Resident Evil, man. Fucking Resident Evil. So when Resident Evil 5 was announced, and it was called, they're going back to form. It's going to be survival horror. They're going to, they're bringing back the zombies. There's going to be environmental things. You're in Africa, so you got to worry about the heat. And they're talking about dynamic lighting changes, like you're blind when you come in. It's real bright outside. You walk into a dark room. You got to wait for your eyes to adjust. It all sounded really badass. So I pre-ordered that sumbitch, Bam! Paid it all off first shot. Like, I want this fucking game. Got the game, Resident Evil 5, beat it in a single day, hated it. Not going to talk about that right now. But, surprise, surprise, it was actually a better game than Resident Evil 6. So, after the disappointment with Resident Evil 5, where I just, the co-op, and I just kept waiting for it to get better, after that anyway, I decided I'm done with Resident Evil. Obviously I'm not in the same target market or whatever you want to say that Capcom is appealing to, so I'm just going to cut my ties and just kind of look on with wistful, sadness of almost like a lost love of what it used to be, But then Resident Evil 6 came out, and I was just kind of casually looking through, and I was actually shocked at some of the really dismal reviews it was getting. And not just from, maybe gaming sites, from people who actually play games, but even from big name sites. When I saw GameStop, I believe, give it like it's not GameStop, GameSpot, give it like a 4.5, and I'm like, what? GameSpot? GameSpot gives like every big name game a 9 or 10 when it comes out, it seems like. So I found that curious. And then there was a fellow at work who works with me. He's raving about the game, but me and him, we're very on opposite sides of the spectrum of what we like. So I had played the demo. I pre-ordered, I had got the demo early because I have Dragon's Dogma, which is a pretty damn good game, but didn't like the demo. Didn't like it at all. So I just went, okay, don't have to play this game, don't have to talk about it. But then Brainscratchcoms did a Resident Evil retrospect. They were talking about it, and I really, oh my god, when I listened to it 2 hours, I broke it up. I couldn't listen to it all at once, but I really wish I could have been there for that one. Not only do I like Brain Scratch, I played all the games, and I was actually a fan from the original. So unlike Johnny and all them who got in it with Resident Evil 4, I was actually there from the beginning. And although Lewis did a pretty good job of talking about it, I felt that I could have added quite a bit to. I'm going to have the books. I have everything they're talking about. I'm like, oh, I could have added to that. It just would have been cool, I thought. Obviously they don't know who the hell I am. And they don't care, but that's fine. But so after that. I think it was Johnny who was like, Resident Evil 6, it's a pretty good game. And I'm like, oh, fuck, well, Johnny always makes me laugh. I love watching his shit. So, went up to my local Red Box, well, that's a story in itself. But I got Resident Evil 6 out of the Red Box, $2 a day. I beat Resident Evil 5 in a day. I bet I can beat Resident Evil 6 on a day or a weekend. So anyway, now that we're let's start. Resident Evil 6 starts off, you have 3 campaigns to pick from. You got Leon, you got Chris, and you got a guy named Jake. I start with Leon. I figure, hey, go in order. I was told Leon's scenario was the best scenario if you were a survival horror fan. I was told that, what Capcom did in this game, they had something for everyone. Leon's scenario was for the old school fans. They really went, hey, here you go. You guys deserve something. You've built this series from the ground up, basically. Without you, there would be no Resident Evil. And then Chris's scenario is supposed to be, this is for the Resident Evil 4 and 5. Even though I think Resident Evil 5 is pretty diverged from 4. Because 4 is still a pretty good game and 5 sucks. And then the Jake story, I guess, was supposed to be whatever from there. But we'll get into that when I get to Jake's campaign. Sorry, gotta drink something, talking a lot. Anyway, Resident Evil, if you played early games, always has a build. Something bad might happen in the beginning that separates things or breaks up the characters, but there's always a build to something. And then that something will happen, and then it builds to something bigger. A good example, Resident Evil 2, you start off with a big explosion. Not too long, well, not really a huge explosion, but a gas tanker explosion that separates the character, which that's the whole point of that explosion. It serves a purpose. It breaks the two characters apart. It's not just an explosion for the sake of an explosion. It has, even if you want to talk about plot, it's got a basis. Why these two were forced to separate, not able to stick together, which would be obviously more helpful towards survival. And then you kind of get to the police station, and it's real spooky, and, you're kind of building, trying to figure out what the hell's going on, slowly unlocking doors, getting through this, and then, oh shit, Birkin, and then, oh god, that was just, wow, what the fuck happened to that guy, and then, you go down, and then he shows up, oh my, now he's even worse the next time you see him, and he's even worse the next time you see him, so you get that nice build. Resident Evil 6 doesn't even bother that. Resident Evil 6 opens on a fucking gigantic boom that hurls the Leon and some woman through the air. They land on a car, which obviously several broken bones. This is an action movie, Michael Bay shit, over the top, everything. So it starts with an explosion, which I'm kind of like, okay, but so then you carry this useless bint through all this stuff. It's like a tutorial level, so okay, it's teaching you how to play, no problem with that. Because I was kind of worried. I'm like, oh, God, I can't remember how do these newfangled Resident Evil games work? They don't play like the old ones. So anyway, and then you go through, and it's a tutorial, and then you end up, apparently, like, back in time. Not literally, you don't travel back in time, but you go back. So I guess it's like, oh, here's what happened before. So it's not the first game to ever do that. So you're playing as Leon Kennedy, or some bitch who no one cares about. I think her name's Helena or whatever. She's fucking annoying. Nobody gives a shit about her. Nobody asks for her. She's just like Sheva. There's so many characters. Obviously, they're pushing the co-op thing again, which I hate. But there's so many characters in Resident Evil that they could have used. It's just like, why do you keep giving us people we don't give a fuck about? And she is so goddamn annoying. Okay, so it starts off, And here's another thing. Apparently, Leon Kennedy is very good friends with the president. Whether or not this is the same president from Resident Evil 4 is never really said, but they're good friends. And how do we know they're good friends? Well, we're told they're good friends. So, no development there. They're just, the president has become a zombie and Leon has to shoot him. And the thing that bugs me about that is it's like supposed to be this emotional moment, like, oh, I'm going to have to kill a good friend of mine. But how we're not even invested. They're not good. We're just told they're good friends. We didn't see that they were good friends. So it's basically a popcorn moment. You don't even care. But the thing that bugs me about it is Leon knows what zombies are. He's been through two big bioterrorism things in the series, 2 and 4. Specifically, this relates back to 2. He knows what zombies are. He knows what they aren't. He knows how they act. He knows how they generally, pretty much think. And yet he's trying to talk to this guy. Don't make me do this. Come on, back off. It's like, no, it's a goddamn zombie, Leon. Just shoot it. Obviously it's emotional conflict. It would have been one thing if he was, monologuing about how they were great friends and everything they'd done before he pulled the trigger. Had to get that last minute, you meant so much to me speech. But instead, we get, like, the typical, I don't know what a zombie is bullshit. Which obviously he does. And we get more useless moments as we wander through a reception thing with a guy and his daughter, and another annoying thing starts to take place. The game takes control away from you constantly. And if it's not taking control away from you, it's modifying your control. It's preventing your control. Sometimes you just can't move quickly. Because the game, you have to move slow now for no apparent reason. And there are no enemies in this whole part that I saw anyway. The guy kind of mentioned something about a fog, but the whole time you're looking for his daughter, no enemies that I can recall. And you find her, blah, doesn't matter, who gives a shit, get in an elevator, they both die. Ugh. And that's kind of the trend of Leon's whole campaign. Occasionally you meet up with other survivors, and with no character really at all. I mean, there's little teeny tiny bits of an asshole boyfriend who, his girlfriend keeps screaming for him help, and he's like, fuck you, you're useless, you're going to get us all killed, which I actually kind of understand from a horror movie point. In a horror movie, she would get him killed. She'd fall down and wouldn't be able to get up until the monster killed him. But every time you meet these survivors, you meet anybody, they're always dead after some big, some moronic event, and only the main characters survive. And it's you don't even get attached to them. They're just there. You have this kind of more like you're fighting alongside them. You think there's going to, maybe we can get some characters from development. No, they're just dead. Although there are two characters that they kind of left a little bit of an impression on me just because of a line of flavor dialogue. There's an old man who I think owns a gun store, and a Japanese kid. And at one point, you're trying to escape on a bus, and the old man gets pulled out of the bus, and the Japanese guy's like, hold on, Pops, I'm coming with you, or something like that. He's going to save him, and he jumps outside to try to fight off the zombies, and I was actually trying to save both of them. I thought I could. And the old man's like, you're coming with me, kid? Well, I'll buy you a drink in hell, and I think he sets off a grenade or something. And it was just a little moment, but I actually kind of... I kind of, in my mind, added a little backstory. Like maybe this old man served somewhere and he knew a little bit of Japanese. I think the Japanese guy never speaks English, but they seem to understand each other. And just the idea that maybe the Japanese guy got really attached. And it's the Pops line. Maybe he looked at him as a surrogate father through all this. Or just something. It was like, there was almost something interesting there. But anyway... I'm not going to totally talk about Leon's plot and spoil a lot of stuff. I'm just going to talk about the things that bug the piss out of me at this point. The QuickTime events up the ass. There are entirely too many QuickTime events. It usually occurs when the game's taking control of you. It's almost like Metal Gear Solid syndrome, but instead of just being really long, a lot of them aren't. Maybe some of them, they feel like they drag on forever, but it's more like instead of a long 20-minute one, there's like 17 2-minute ones. Sometimes they take control away from you just to show you 5 seconds of just something. I can't even give you an example because it happens so fast. It's like, here's the thing. Okay, now you can play some more. But everything is blowing the fuck up in this game. At one point, you're on a bus, and you're driving along, and here's where the implausible action shit starts to just drive me insane. You're on a bus, and the guy runs over a zombie, and somehow loses control of the bus and almost goes off a cliff, and in the midst of that happening, you get attacked by more zombies, all your survivors at that point are dying, and then here, out of nowhere, comes a fucking semi-truck, I think an oil tanker, a gasoline truck, I think, comes careening out of nowhere from the opposite side, or maybe it was following you, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's got zombies all over it. It's driving recklessly. It smashes into the bus. You go over it. You fall over a cliff. More explosions. Everyone but you dies. There's even a moment where one guy has survived, and he's like, oh, and then the explosion kills him as he's inside underneath the car. And that... everything's exploding in this game. There's stuff blowing up every 5 fucking seconds. And I'm not even totally exaggerating on that. Stuff is constantly blowing up. But not just blowing up. The amount of times I defy anyone who really likes this game to play through again and count how many times a gas truck explodes. I swear to God, it seems like 20 times there's a gas tanker that blows up. At one point, there's a gas tanker that blows up after a jet falls on top of it, and the entire street starts to explode, sending this giant wave of exploding fire at you like the movie Independence Day, literally. And you're running away from this giant ball of fire, I think for the second time, yeah. Because this is when you've caught up to your tutorial prologue. So you've done this twice now, run from this same goddamn explosion. That, oil tank, yeah, if a gas tank blew up, it would blow up pretty bad. But it wouldn't blow up like a fucking atomic bomb and take out 7 or 8 blocks. The only thing I can think to try and do is the gas tanker explodes, and then the fuel of the jet explodes, and then all the cars on the road, all their gas tanks are exploding, and it's just bullshit. But not only that, we get to the other cliche. Leon and Bitchy McNoone gives a fuck are constantly falling down. And what I mean by that is they're always going off a cliff, or getting knocked off of a bridge, or knocked off of a ledge, or knocked off of this, or they're falling off of something else, or the goddamn floor is collapsing. Just like the gas tank thing. Go back and count how many times the floor gives way or they fall down. And they're always falling down to the point where they fall down so much that by a midpoint they should be battered, bruised, broken, and dead. They tremendous heights. They're constantly falling off of cliffs. And there's this one part where you go underneath a church, and then you go into a laboratory, and then you go underneath that, and it's like now all of a sudden you're playing Skyrim. You're literally in a Skyrim catacombs being attacked by 100-year-old zombies, some of them in armor, with, axes and shit sticking out of them. I'm not even joking on that. And during this catacomb sequence, everything is collapsing. As you're going lower and lower, because collapsing floor, collapsing floor, collapsing floor, collapsing floor. At one point I was like, Jesus Christ, how many times can the floor collapse on us? It's not just a cliche, it's the same goddamn cliche over and over again. And it gets really annoying. And on the subject of falling, there's multiple times during the game where there's an explosion or something's rattling and your characters stumble around. They nearly fall or something like this. And okay, fine, you're on a train or whatever it is. It's something that would logically knock you off balance, but it gets annoying because it's constantly, you're just trying to fucking walk or fight some monsters, and I can't stand up, oh God, and I'm just sitting there going, not only you're taking control away from me, then you modify my control, and now you're just fucking with me. I might as well just be every once in a while throwing the controller up in the air and catching it, because that's just to give myself more of a challenge. I don't know what the. It's so goddamn annoying. And QuickTime events up the ass. The majority of my deaths were, I fucked up a QuickTime event, or, I didn't, there's several parts where you have to react really quickly and shoot something, and occasionally they're like shoot that thing, but, I'll give you a perfect example. One time you're fighting some kind of shark monster creature, and you have to, the whole fight you've been shooting in its glowing weak spot, and then all of a sudden, shoot the TNT, and I'm like, but the glowing weak spot. So everything's slowed down into slow motion, because we have lots of that now. And when I was I didn't pull my gun up faster, and I died, and had to do it over again. And that leads to another part. There's a part where there's an underwater section in this game. Yes, there's a fucking water level in Leon's campaign. It's boring, it's stupid. Literally, you're just moving from air pocket to air pocket. Not scary, not even tense. I actually got lost several times, and I was like, well, fuck, I'm going to die because I can't figure out where to go because it's so dark, and I can't see anything. But I made it through in one shot, so yay for me, didn't drown. And then you have to fight this, you don't even have to fight anything. You have to run from / rail shoot this shark frog thing. And which leads to another set of sequences. There's 2 or 3 times where Leon and bitch no one cares about get flooded with water and go sliding down these just massive tunnels that I guess weren't full of water then, but they are now. And this happens 2 or 3 times where you're just sliding down these things, listening to them talk. Whereas in reality, they'd be getting bashed to shit on the rocks and dead. They're hurtling along at like what seems at 60 miles an hour, and then they pop out 40 feet in the air and hit the water, all of which would kill them. Which brings me to the other thing that annoys me. It's what bothered me in Resident Evil 4. This action hero shit. In the original Resident Evils, your characters went through some serious shit. But as I recall, it was never anything that stood out as, wow, that could never possibly, you couldn't survive that. They never did, action movie, slow motion, bullet foo bullshit. For the most part, it always seemed like normal people, in an extraordinary situation, just having to deal with it. In this game, things are exploding. They're, constantly. They're flying off cliffs. They're getting knocked back by so many things explode in this game that by a certain point they should be completely deaf. I mean, they would be dead. The shrapnel and shockwaves would have killed them dozens of times over. But like an action movie, they don't bother to even consider the damage that a bomb does. I mean, bombs kill for a reason, people. You read about an explosion and X amount are dead. You don't just get thrown 30 feet back, bash your kidneys off a fucking car, and then get up fine. It doesn't work that way. But it happens constantly in this game, and that's something that bothers me. Another thing, the fall 40 feet into water. Well, here's something, you maybe not know about water, but it doesn't like things moving through it that quickly. It resists. It doesn't move out of the way. It actually gets quite hard. Not quite concrete, but if you don't believe me, you could do a simple test. Fill up a large sink full of water and just slowly put your hand in. No resistance at all, right? Now spread your hand out and slap the water. What happens? It's the reason belly flops hurt. So once again, they would be dead. But that brings me on to the other annoying subject. Leon's partner, Helena, bitch, don't give a fuck, why are you in my game? She's excruciatingly annoying because at first she starts out like, okay, she has a lead. She tells, Leon gets a call from Hunnigan. He's like, I just shot the president, which was a horrible way to worry that. He should have been like, the president was infected, turned into a zombie, and I was forced to kill him. So basically, he almost implicates himself, which actually is a plot point that doesn't mean a goddamn thing when you get right down to it. But you have this woman, and she's like, oh, Leon has a lead to who started all this. And Leon's like, what? I don't have no fucking leads. But he agrees to it because she's like, I'm going to take you to this. And he's like, well, you going to tell me what's going on? Well, it'd be better if I show you. I'll explain everything when we get to the church. That's what she says. It'd be better if I show you. And he's kind of like, well, I kind of want to know. Well, I'll tell you everything when we get to the church. Okay, well, you go through all this sequence of explodey, everyone die bits. You're running around a fucking cemetery, which is just annoying. But okay, kind of, they're going for a little atmosphere. I haven't really been tense at all during this game, but I can see they're kind of trying. So at first I'm going to give them some effort until you get to the first puzzle, if you want to call it that you have to deal with in this. The door to the church is locked. You got to find the key. Okay. This is old school Resident Evil, find the fucking key. Well, you find the key, except the key is in the teeth of a zombie dog. So now you have to go and chase after this fucking dog to kill it to get the key. Useless padding, adds nothing, it's fucking annoying. So you finally unlock it, and you get to several more, you get, and then you finally unlock it, you get through, and Leon gets knocked off a cliff, a ledge, and you get separated. Oh, okay, so you have to wander through without your partner, which reminds me, if you're playing as Helena, I would imagine you're just standing there waiting for Leon. There was like nothing for you to do. So you're going through, and like, oh shit, I don't have my partner, this might get really hairy. It's not. You meet back up with them. Then you get to the church is locked, they're not going to let you in, because they hear zombies. So now you have to do a kill all the monsters thing. You have to do this several times, and this is really annoying because they have all these points where you have to kill wave after wave of zombies, but they don't give you enough ammo. I mean, I wasn't wasting ammo. I played Resident Evil for years. I was trying to save all my ammunition, but you really can't, because it seems to me that the zombies never stop coming. No matter where you are, there's certain parts where you have to fight through a wave of them. But even if you're just kind of moving from building to building, it just seems like the zombies, they just keep coming. They keep coming. You can't just like stop, like, okay, I killed them all, catch my breath, kind of absorb what has happened. No, you got to keep moving. The game's constantly yelling at you. Don't think, don't even bother to consider. Just shoot. Why aren't you shooting? Keep shooting. Oh, you're fucking out of ammo. So basically, during the middle of a battle, I'm just running around, kicking things, scrounging for some ammo, or hoping that some enemies drop some. But they don't. They keep dropping these stupid action points. So I had to get real creative with bombs and shit to do it. So we get in the church, and Leon's like, okay, what the fuck's going on? Well, I can't, I'll tell you, Mrs., I'll tell you when we get to the church, like, oh, we got to go. There's a door. We got to go down. I'll tell you when we get down there. So you have to solve another really stupid puzzle, which basically involves putting two statues on two things, statues of Madonnas on two things at one time. And I love how Leon will read the puzzle clue to you, like as if you're so stupid you can't understand anything. This is obviously for the really dumb crowd. And then you get to what might have been a clever puzzle, but it clearly isn't. You have to get to a spot where you have to ring 5 bells. And 2 seconds before, you got a sniper rifle. Can you guess what you have to do to ring those bells? You got your side character, I have to figure this out. Oh, what could it be? I don't know. Sniper rifle. Gee, I wonder. So you get down there, and you open it up, and monster comes out and kills all the survivors. I don't know if you could actually save them, because this monster's one that actually runs from you and seems to be more along the lines of infecting everyone and turn them into zombies. And I guess they're not T-virus zombies, they're C-virus zombies, and whatever. One point of contention before I continue on the zombies. I don't like the fact if I could shoot a zombie in the head, why doesn't it die in one bullet? I've shot several zombies in the head 4 and 5 times and they haven't died. They're fucking bullet sponges. And none of that, because they've actually added some damage. I blew off a massive chunk of one zombie's head, and he's not dead yet. Come on. Half of his head is gone. If you're gonna follow, Leon goes, go for headshots. That's your best bet. If you're gonna do the headshot thing, because torso shots, you can shoot them 20 times and they'll go down. If you're gonna do a headshot thing, and considering it can be sometimes a little bit of a chore to line up a good shot, then you ought to reward me with a one-shot kill, because I just put a bullet through his brain and blew half his fucking skull out. But whatever. So you get down below the thing, and okay, we're down here. You're gonna tell me what's going on? Oh, I'll tell you I'll tell you later. I can't tell you now. At this point, I'm thinking, Leon, you've been through this before. This bitch is an awful lot like Ada Wong. You ought to know there's trouble and either start kicking the shit out of her until she tells you what's going on, or put a fucking bullet in the back of her head and get the fuck out of here. But anyway, she starts screaming some girl's name. Obviously, now we get the point. She's used you to find someone else. Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. The point of it is the annoyance of this character of, I'll tell you what's going on later. I'll tell you what's going on later. I'll tell you when we get here. You get there. I'll tell you when we get below here. Okay, we'll get there. I'll tell you when we get below there. I'll tell you when we get... No, tell me now. And Leon just keeps going with it. And it's fucking annoying. So you end up in the catacombs, and I'm not even kidding, where it's like a dungeon of Skyrim. And if I'm going to play Skyrim, goddammit, I want to fuss Roda. But, so you're fighting all these zombies that have obviously been dead for hundreds of years. They were like knights or whatever. So there wouldn't be any flesh left. And as I recall, even though this isn't the T-virus, that's the way the T-virus worked. It didn't reanimate the dead. It... Not in a sense of, they were in a coffin and they came out. Yes, I know Resident Evil 3, they came out of the ground, but I'm kind of disregarding that as gameplay and trying to kind of scare you. I mean, it was clearly living people infected with this virus. How can a virus infect dead flesh? There's no blood flow, there's no nothing for it to work with. But anyway, so you have to fight your way through this constantly collapsing cavern. And you just happen to find an assault rifle down there. And that's the other thing, the weapons. In earlier Resident Evil games, you found weapons at certain points. And it was always like, yes, shotgun, thank God. And then you find the Magnum, and you're like, oh, Magnum, yes. And then in Resident Evil 4, you bought your weapons, but they got unlocked at slower points, and you could find certain ones. So it wasn't bad. And then Resident Evil 5 shit on it by having you materialize guns out of the ether. All after every, end of a chapter, you could buy a gun or whatever it was. I can't quite remember. But in this game, you're back to the original style of finding them. And I don't even know if I found them all. I think I actually missed one. Somebody called the elephant gun. Because I never found that. But I didn't need it, so who gives a shit? But you find them, and it's just like, okay. I found a Magnum. I didn't even, I saved it because I figured I was going to need the ammo, but it got to a point where I was trying to save the ammo for something bigger and better, like, I might need this for a boss, No, I really didn't need to save it all, I just needed to use it whenever I wanted it, because even though ammo was scarce, there was really no point. I never got to a situation where I needed that Magnum. Then you get to the boss battles. There's basically just one long boss battle that runs like the entire fucking game. You have to fight this guy who... it's almost like they're trying to pass it off like the Birkin fights, where he just keeps getting worse and worse every time you see him. But every fight with him, it's just this tediously long, just bullet sponge bore fest. It gets to the point where it's like, am I hurting him? Is there like a special place I'm supposed to shoot him? Nothing's really standing out. Am I just supposed to survive until we get to the next cutscene? I don't know. Then you get to, more points where you meet up with people who all die. And that's something that actually kind of cracks me up when you start meeting up with soldiers. There's all these soldiers you meet that die in explosions or this and that, heroically. There's one, a few guys do the heroic sacrifice, and then there's actually one guy when you're running from the exploding wall who's like, come on, get on the chopper. And he's kind of providing cover fire. You jump on the chopper, and he just gets left there. I mean, he doesn't even try to get back on the helicopter. He just gets taken over by the exploding wall. So I'm like, what the fuck was the point of that? Then you have to fight your reoccurring boss again, who literally has turned into a dinosaur. A giant eyeball dinosaur that looks like shit. This fight is so goddamn annoying. I'm thinking I have to shoot. He has an eyeball in, I guess, his mouth, and I'm like, I guess I have to shoot him there. But for the majority of the fight, I'm just running around, scrounging for ammo. Smashing everything because I've got pretty much no ammo left because I've had to use it all to kill wave after wave of either zombies, or I used it all the last damn time I had to fight this fucker. And while you're doing that, you have your partner who has, unlike Sheva, your partner cannot die ever, apparently, as long as it's computer controlled. Doesn't ever run out of ammo and seems to get new weapons from somewhere. I guess around the same time you do, they get their own weapon. But your partner is useless and stupid, so don't count on them for much. But while you're fighting this giant dinosaur, you have Ada Wong, supposedly, in a helicopter shooting at it. Okay, so you get some cover fire. This battle, I swear to God, felt like it took half an hour. I don't think it actually did. It probably only took like 10 minutes. But I'm sitting there going, am I not hurting him? And then every once in a while, he will transform back into his human state. He's like a jigsaw puzzle or something. And you can get a QuickTime event where Leon runs up, does a Shining Wizard knee to the face, and starts punching the shit out of him. And every time I did that scene, and this happens over and over again, in this reoccurring boss fight, and every time I'm sitting there thinking, okay, he's in his human form, and you're just, you're UFC pinning him to the ground and punching the shit out of him. Why don't you take your shotgun and blow his fucking head off? Why are you punching him? You've done shot him. There comes a point where you've shot this guy so many times, there should be nothing left but bullets. I mean, you've unloaded hundreds of thousands of rounds into him. And then you get more explosions and ungodly long QuickTime events. There's this one after a building explodes, and your character, and you don't get to do any of this, by the way. You're watching this the whole time. The building explodes, and you jump from one outdoor elevator to another because, yeah, it's slow motion, like, jump to the elevator. You get to the elevator, and then that explodes, and you're stuck climbing up these elevator cables for like hours, it feels like. You got to alternate. The command prompt to me was kind of confusing. I didn't really understand what I was asking me to do. I finally figured out, you have to alternate your left-right triggers. But you can't let go of the trigger until you're pressing the other one. Otherwise, he loses his grip and he falls. This happened to me quite frequently, which extended the scene because I was fucking it up. We'll admit that I was fucking it up. But you're stuck climbing up these elevator cables for what feels like hours while they're talking and there's some kind of battle going on. And the whole time this is happening, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Will you please just let me play the game? This is not, this is so exciting. I'm doing QuickTime event to climb up a fucking elevator cable. And then I get up the elevator cable and Leon's like, no more climbing. And then you're kind of shooting at the guy from across. You're on a broken, a bridge between buildings, and it's been broken. You're on one side of the broken bridge, and ostensibly Ada and Boss are on the other side, and you're shooting at it, and then that thing starts to collapse, and you have to see another explosion, slow motion, bullshit, jump back onto the fucking elevator cable. You have to climb all the way back up the elevator cable. Oh my god. There is nothing interesting in this game, especially this campaign, save one little thing. At a certain point, you, Leon, run into Sherry Birkin. And there was a moment where I had just total, it's like when you're watching a film or reading a book and two characters that from a previous series meet each other and you're like, hey, yeah, they're, together, yes, and you kind of want them to hang out and kind of do some shit. But they don't. Leon, they have kind of a half-ass thing, and character Jake deserves Leon should have just shot him in the face or beat the shit out of him because he's just an arrogant, rude prick, and I don't care about him, but we'll get to that when we get to his scenario. And so you have to fight this boss. Once again, I ran out of ammo. I'm running around while this giant BOW badass supposedly is running around trying to kill us, and I'm not even paying any attention to him. I'm too busy kicking crates, hoping I get 10 fucking bullets to try to shoot him. I, once again, can't even tell if I'm hurting him until I get the cutscene of I guess I was doing damage. Because sometimes it's like, are my shots hitting? Am I not shooting him in the right spot? I don't know what's going on. Who is this guy? But apparently, he's kind of at that time, if you're just playing Leon's scenario, you don't know that Sherry and Jake have been dealing with this for a while now. So, because the three scenarios intersect. At one point, Leon and Chris run into each other. And this was a moment I know a lot of Resident Evil fans have been waiting for. The moment where Leon and Chris are on the same screen at the same time. You're kind of expecting, yeah. It's bullshit, doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. They kind of argue, they have kind of a half-ass fight where no one really comes out on top. I guess they're just trying, Leon's really quick and comes off kind of as more free-flowing martial arts with a lot of kicks and things of that. And, Chris is just, he's bulked up even more on his steroids and he's just a bruiser. But the scene, there's no tension. At one point they're pointing guns at each other. They're not going to shoot each other. Nothing's going to happen. And then it kind of, they just meet just long enough to go, hey guys, guess what? You know, intersecting gameplay, blah, and then they're off. It doesn't even matter. Oh, it hurts. This entire campaign is just total popcorn. I mean, there's no real story. I mean, there is a story, but you would be excused if you didn't even notice it. You know, it's just with Leon's scenario, it's explosion, explosion, fall, 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 and that's it. That's all I really remember is constantly, everything's constantly fucking blowing up, and I'm constantly falling, 40, 50 feet at a time. The characters are stupid that you meet. This Helena, whatever, who gives a shit bitch, she's pointless. She's useless. She doesn't even need to be there. You could have replaced her with anybody and it would have been just the same, and it would have meant more. There are so many characters that you could have put with Leon that would have actually, from older games, it would have fit up a little bit. Instead we have ostensibly it's like, oh, well, she has a slight connection to the plot. Yeah, well, no, she doesn't. She has a connection to one half-ass character that, no, it doesn't even matter. It's over and begun before there's any weight to it at all. There's no, and that's the other thing. Like I said, there's no point to really go, okay, take a breath, digest what just happened. Wow, okay, kind of catch your bearings. No, there's no point in that. There's no subtlety, no build up. It's just go, shoot, shoot, explode, run, shoot, explode, run, explode, fall, explode, explode, explode. That was, the thing with Resident Evil 5 is I was like, now I know a lot of people who do like this game are constantly accusing people who don't of, oh, you're just a nostalgia bitch, you can't handle that the series has evolved and it had to take a new direction. Oh, and you probably just suck at the game. Oh, that just annoys me, but that's typical forum bullshit, Internet's just for drama and porn. The main problem is people, they try to tell me that Leon's campaign was the survival horror thing. If that's true, well, it fucking fails miserably. But as I was talking about this Helena girl, you could have stuck numerous, because there is no development really with characters, you could have stuck anybody in there, and it would have meant, a little bit more than her. You could have put somebody people actually wanted to see. I mean, Leon and Sherry would have been much better, and it would have actually been kind of interesting due to their connection in Resident Evil 2. But I'm actually going to nix that because I have a better idea, which I'll talk about when I get to Sherry's part of the game. Leon and Chris, that would have been interesting. If you're going to buy, they shouldn't even have this fucking co-op to begin with. But Leon and Chris, that would have been more interesting because Chris has got his own no one gives a fuck about companion. Leon and Claire. Now, granted, Claire is, in the Resident Evil storyline, she's not really involved in the military or this. She does her own anti-BOW, more peaceful thing. But it wouldn't have been a stretch to throw her in there somehow. They could have thought of a way. Even though, yeah, people are like, well, yeah, they were just throwing her in there. Well, at least we would have been happy to see her instead of this stupid bitch that just annoys the fuck out of us. Doesn't tell us what's going on. Then we find what she kind of knows, and then even when you find out what the big thing is, it's not like, oh wow, shit's getting heavy. I was more like, so big deal. Boss fight time. And then the whole fighting the boss that you have to fight towards the end of that, she's just pissing me off with her behavior anyway. But whatever, I won't get into it because I've been talking for a while now. Moving beyond the problems with the plot, moving on to some of the gameplay problems. This game plays like shit. Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5 handled good. They did handle good. I always felt like, okay, I didn't much care for the camera. I actually don't like the over-shoulder camera, and the reason being is I find myself getting blindsided more with the new camera than I did with the old camera. I'm constantly getting hit from behind, from shit that wasn't there before, or, shit just off to my left where I can't really see because of the way the camera is. And Leon takes way too much space up in the camera, blocking shit. But the controls feel really clumsy and clunky. You know, when you're moving, it's like he's either moving too slow or too fast. So you kind of, and his speed is kind of like how much you're pushing on the analog stick, which okay, but that's really kind of annoying to kind of half hold it so he'll walk a little slower. And when he's walking too fast, he actually trips over shit. Like if you're walking too fast and you walk across the body, he stumbles. Ugh! And like I said with the previous losing your balance thing, he's kind of like, I tripped over a chair. It's like, Jesus Christ, you see it there. You're supposed to be competent. Why are you tripping over everything? Well, I'm tripping because I'm moving too quickly, obviously. There's no horror in this campaign. There's no tension. I wasn't nervous or tense, or there wasn't even a jump scare that kind of made me go, whoa, you know. To me, and I know this is a point of contention, but to me, Resident Evil Remake did it perfectly. You know, you could have built a little bit more on that, but Remake was a perfect Resident Evil game, and it may be the best of the Resident Evil games. If I'm being objective, if I look at the classic series, Resident Evil Remake may be the very best one they made. I thought Resident Evil 5 was as bad as it could get. I was wrong. But the thing is, not only is this Resident Evil not a good Resident Evil game, it's not even a good action game. You know, you could find dozens of action games out there better than this. You know, I haven't really played many. I don't like shooters all that much. But, you know, Gears of War did it better. Any first-person shooter pretty much does it better. And to me, it's just it's the kind, you know, it's an action movie is what it is. There's never really a break, a moment, like I said, to just catch your breath and digest what's going on and try to think a little bit. No, you're constantly just moving forward. You know, people call Final Fantasy 13 Linear Corridor 13, and that's really what Resident Evil 6 is. It's just corridor after corridor, except that they're flashy set pieces, and that's it. You know, and there are several times in the game, you know, with the QuickTime events, there's at one point in the game that sticks out in my mind where you're fighting, where the game, what it is what I'm trying to say, when the game's trying to do so much at one time, you know, you're running from explosions, you're running and shooting at monsters. Then you got a QuickTime event. Then you get like a rail shooter moment. And there's one moment that cracks me up when you're fighting the giant dinosaur boss. You're shooting it, a helicopter shooting at it. At one point, a guy I think you're supposed to know, I think it's actually the army guy that you met earlier, who I didn't really talk about because he doesn't have a name or anything, but there's an army guy who's actually the only person who's capable of driving rationally through a bad situation. He drives nice and slow and only speeds up when he has to, but you break with him when he's going to go back and look to see if there's any survivors of his team. There wouldn't be, but I won't talk about, you know, I'm trying not to spoil, even though I have. Spoilers are spoilers throughout all this. But anyway, I think it's supposed to be him because Leon makes someone makes a comment of, I'm glad you made it out. I couldn't even tell who it was because I was too busy, like, you know, even the voice didn't catch me because shit's blowing up and the monster's screaming. But anyway, you get in the back of this truck and there are two, like, I don't know what kind of gun they'd be, auto cals or whatever, 50 caliber guns. But there are mounted machine guns on the back of this Jeep. So I'm like, okay, rail shooter time. We're obviously going to have to shoot at the dinosaur while the guy is driving, and we're probably going to go to another location. Because we've been in this boss room for like 20 minutes, it seems like. So we're shooting at him. But no, you shoot at him from the back of this Jeep for like a minute and a half before the Jeep gets knocked over. You get thrown out of the Jeep. The army guy's laying in the little crevice under the Jeep spontaneously combusts, catches fire, and kills him. And you're back to fighting the boss on foot again. In the same damn room. So basically you had a boss fight, you were shooting at the boss, they gave you a quick rail shooter moment, and now you're back in the same, you didn't even move location. What was the fucking point? Like I said, it's not just a bad, it's not even that they've jettisoned survival horror, they're not even doing the action right. But that brings me on to the topic of survival horror. A lot of people have said, basically, you guys are all butthurt fags who can't, that's actually what I was called, who can't, the series had to evolve. It has evolved. Fuck you people and your old tank controls. You just wanted it to go back to that shit. No, what we wanted was an evolution of survival horror. And I do not buy into the preposition that action is the natural end result of survival horror. I mean, okay, yeah, evolution is tiny changes over time to become better suited in your environment, and perhaps that's what has happened. That Resident Evil, to become better suited in the action environment, had to become action. But, it doesn't seem that way to me, because old school Resident Evil fans can't stand this fucking game. So, okay, they don't care about them. Or is it the point that games now cost so much to make that you have to suck everyone in to recoup your money? And in that case, I think you need to look at your business strategy. But to the point is, people say, you just wanted the old games, that you just wanted to stay the same, you didn't ever want any change. No, we wanted survival horror to evolve into better survival horror. We wanted, for instance, when I was a kid and I was looking like, where's this series going to be in 10 years? I'm a child of the 90s, okay? So the people in the 70s and 80s, particularly 80s, with games, it was, virtual reality. It was going to be VR. You were going to be in the game. Well, us people in the 90s, I think, we didn't really have that. We kind of saw that fail. I thought where Resident Evil was going to go was something along the lines of like a Fallout 3, or kind of a Bethesda style game, only much better. Don't get me stated, it wouldn't have been like that, much better. Some big open world kind of thing where you have to traverse the city and you really have to survive. You have to find ammunition. You have to you have to be smart about what you're doing. You're scrounging for food. You have to take into account. You have to really think like a person. I have to eat, I have to drink, I have to sleep, I have to live, I have to kill these, I have to live, I have to survive. And then, add on the, better puzzle elements that weren't just pushing crates. Something, not like something that would really crush your brain, but something you could kind of look at and figure out logically, or, you could understand the mechanics of it and unlock the mysteries of what was going on. That's what we wanted. We wanted, more emphasis on surviving the situation and the horror and the tension, not just shoot, 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 explode, explode, explode. That to me would have been an evolution. Was just going where you were and increasing what you've already done in that area. You understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to get all my thoughts together, because like I said, this is just me rambling off the cuff. I haven't written anything down. But that's what I always thought it was going to be. And no game has really done that. Dead Island kind of, sort of touched on it a little bit, but okay, nice step up point. Now grow, now evolve. Action is not an evolution of survival horror. If, the series, you could always fight the monsters, which I like. I don't like horror games where you can't fight. Because I don't like stealth games. You could always fight, but it was not so much limited. It was basically realistic in a sense. You had a gun, you aimed, and you shot that gun. Real people are not, and that was the other thing. Resident Evil 1, you're basically just cops. Okay, you're sort of, they said paramilitary, so you're basically SWAT. Well, just being SWAT doesn't make you, a fucking James Bond character and all that shit. Resident Evil 2, you're a policeman fresh out of the academy and just a girl, really, when you get down to it. Claire Redfield. Now, she might have learned some stuff from Chris. Obviously, he was in the military. He's a marksman, so explains how she knows how to shoot. But you're just normal people. Resident Evil 3, same thing. Only, Resident Evil 3 had a dodge mechanic, which I really liked. But your characters weren't doing backflips and while dodging bullets and shooting other bullets out of the air while swinging on a fucking elevator cable over a pit of exploding acid with acid lava alligators diving out of it, and all that bullshit. You were just people who had to deal with a situation, and range was your primarily only advantage over the monsters. And that's the other thing. There's not one memorable monster that I ran into in the course of Leon's campaign that made me kind of go, that's kind of cool. Or I'm gonna, there's a zombie that screams. I guess it attracts more zombies, and it actually runs away from you. And I think what they're kind of trying to pass off as a Crimson Head, but it doesn't really look like that. It just looks like a slimy, knobby zombie. It doesn't even really stand out among other zombies until it jumps at you. And you're like, oh shit, knock me over. Yeah, you're constantly getting knocked over. And they changed the health system. Used to be you got an herb, you used it. The more herbs you used or what you mixed them with, the more powerful it was. Well, now you have to put the herbs, they're useless by themselves, you put them in these pills that you have an unlimited amount of, and you put the pills into a case. And then you can, quick fire a pill to heal yourself. Well, no matter what you do, every pill cures one block of life. So if you want to fully heal yourself, you have to sit there and just pop pills. Like 4 or 5 pills, blah, 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 pills. What the fuck is that? You mix a green and a red herb and you get like 9 pills. So instead of getting stronger, you just get more. Which, okay, fine, but at the same point, I used to just slap on, use a healing item and I was good. First aid sprays will completely heal you, but they're pretty rare. I think I only found 3 in the whole game. But even then, there was points where I was trying to explore because I was still like, oh, this is a Resident Evil game, gotta explore, gotta find all the shit. And the game was like, no, there's no shit to find, just keep going. There was one moment where I ran into this monster that I couldn't kill. You just can't kill it. And you have to run around looking for keys. And you think this is going to be a really tense moment, except it's not. You're basically, because there's no more map. What there is now an arrow that points where you got to go. You bring up kind of a half-assed menu, and there's an arrow. So basically, I'm just running from key to key, and then I get all 3 keys and unlock it, and I'm gone. It was almost could have been tense, and just wasn't. But back to the herb thing. Okay, it makes sense that you're grinding up medicinal herbs, you put them in a pill, and you eat them. Okay, fine. I don't see how that would heal all your wounds. But people will go, well, what'd you do before? Well, before, because they were on the paper, I figured it was kind of an old school, you kind of put them over the wound, was the thing that was going on. But it didn't really matter. It was goofy then, it's still goofy now. But now it's got one added step of pointlessness. My head hurts. This game just, it hurts me. And I'm confused at people who are saying this is the best Resident Evil game ever. I've actually heard people say that, and I'm starting to go, the people who said that obviously did not care much for the series as it was. That's the only thing I could think of. Or maybe they did. I don't understand where they're coming from. I really don't. So if anyone wants to comment on this video, yelling at me, telling me, oh, you're just a nostalgia bitch, and you suck at the game. Well, first of all, I don't care about your opinion about like that. If that's all you've got nothing. You might as well just sit there, scream, screech, and beat yourself off. You've got nothing. Now, you want to tell me why in a discussion, I might actually respect that. But at this point, my view of Resident Evil 6 has not changed. It's a piece of shit. And I thought it was going to suck. I went in to thinking this game was going to suck. I will freely admit that. I wasn't impressed by the demo, but I was like, show me, maybe I'm wrong. Because it was a demo, maybe I'm wrong. But actually, the only reason I played this is I wanted to see if it was really as bad as everyone said. And I figured, I'll just rent it, and I'll beat it in a day, which I did. And then we'll be good. I played on normal. I didn't feel a reason to jack it up. But I actually heard someone say, well, that's not what this game is about. The game isn't about the campaign. The game is about Mercenaries mode. That's where the game shines. That's what Capcom wanted to do. That's where it's the best. And fuck you, no. If that was the point, why didn't they just release Resident Evil Mercenaries and make the whole game that? You're just making excuses at this point. But like I said about survival horror, to sum it all up and end this, we wanted, us old school fans of survival horror and Resident Evil, we wanted survival horror to evolve into better survival horror. We wanted better puzzles, more emphasis on survival, more realistic emphasis on survival. We wanted more freedom, more choices, more ways to do things. We wanted maybe, as I said, a larger free-flowing environment on the outside with buildings you could go in and explore and find the main thing, maybe and then find your police station or your Arkley mansion or whatever it was. But we wanted to we wanted to survive. We wanted that to be the emphasis, not shooting and exploding. We wanted to actually have to take care of our character like they were a person. Wanted, find food. Not just like what the bullshit Fallout 3 tried to do, where every once in a while on a certain mode, you had to eat a can of beans and then you were good. Or you had to sleep for an hour and then you were fine. No. We wanted, parts where you could maybe set traps and blockades and look for, okay, there's a good sniper tower. I bet I'd be safe there. I could kill the zombies. Okay, how am I going to get in here? How am I going to get out? Barricade it myself in, set some things up like an alarm system so I know if the zombies are coming or this and that, and then find other monsters like, holy shit, more monsters, and then find out what Umbrella had done or whatever. That's what we wanted. I thought what Resident Evil, the other thing with Resident Evil 4, which I'll get into there, but what I thought Resident Evil 4 was going to be the ultimate showdown with Umbrella. And it was going to be, you versus the head guy, Oswald Spencer, and his funhouse, and how he would be backed into a corner. And being an old man and all this, just go fuck it and unleash everything he had. And, maybe completely fuck an entire country or whatever. And you're trying to get through the city, to get to wherever he is. And now you're in his mansion. And now you're in, or, his estate, castle, whatever it was. And now you're in the fun house. Because Spencer's a paranoid old fuck who loves that 60s style traps and gadgets and puzzles. And now you really gotta run through his maze and get all that weird shit that doesn't make any sense to anybody but him. And maybe I'll talk more about that when I do Resident Evil 4 or whatever. But as I said, action, explodey, bullshit, Michael Bay masturbation is not an evolution of Resident Evil. You could call this game anything other than Resident Evil, and it wouldn't even matter. If you slapped another title on there and you removed, you took Chris Redfield and whatever and Leon Kennedy and changed their name and changed like one or two facial features. Actually, Leon's the only one who really looks familiar to me anyway. But you changed it a little bit and you wouldn't even notice. It could have been anything else. And if it had been anything else, it still would have sucked. Because not only is it a bad Resident Evil game, it is a bad action game. And that's all I have to say about that point on Leon and the game, period. Next time, I will try to stay more focused on Chris's campaign. See you then.